everyone, this is Tony from her Homestead Skills, and as has become my usual daily routine, well, most days, I try to go to the garden in the morning, and from there I may do other activities based on perhaps what I find in the garden or whatever else I may have in mind to do that day. Anyway, I did find the pickle vine, or the cucumber vine, is growing quite well, producing quite well. It also is withering in some areas. I don't know why some of them do wither, but they do. It's very common. But I'm still getting enough flowers and enough cucumbers to continue to make pickles. So I'm going to put another jar of pickles together. So today's harvest is basically just cucumbers, some dill for the cucumbers, and some of my grape tomatoes. So I'm going to put another jar of cucumbers together to make pickles, and I'll show you how I do that. Okay, so first here's the little basket that I use to gather the morning's harvest. And as you can see, I've got some beautiful fresh dill weed, and I'm going to definitely use that. And enough cucumbers to do at least 1 quart, perhaps a 1.5 quart jar, and some of my tomatoes. Now the first thing I'm going to do with all of this is wash everything quite well. And I'm going to separate the tomatoes. They will be put aside for perhaps a tomato salad this evening. But the cucumbers, definitely going to wash everything first, and the dill weed, and then we'll get back to you. Okay, well, this is how I make fermented pickles. I have bottled water here rather than tap water that's been chlorinated. I have sea salt. Any kind of non-iodized salt will do. And anywhere from a tablespoon to a tablespoon and a half of salt to 2 cups of water. And I use a pint jar to measure 2 cups of water and mix that all up pretty good. Okay, and I have, okay, so my salt water has dissolved. So now I want to take my, and I've got quite a substantial amount of dill leaves there, but that's okay. I've got so much in the garden, why not use it? So I'm putting that at the bottom of the jar first. Then I have my pickling spice that I concocted myself because I couldn't find any on the shelves. I used to be able to, and when I was looking for it one day I couldn't find it. So I made my own mixture. And a good heaping tablespoon of that. I have quite a bit of it anyway. This is going to last me a while. I have 2 cloves of garlic, and I'm using a 1.5 quart jar here simply because of the amount of cucumbers I have. I can pretty much almost fill this. And I could put a little hot red pepper, but I do have some pepper flakes in this mixture, so I'm not going to do that. So, okay, after your pickles have been washed, you want to trim off the blossom end. And I had started to put the pickles in the jar and realized I'd forgotten to do that. So I pulled them back out and trim off all the blossom end on the cucumbers. It's this end here. Oops, wrong end, but that's okay, we'll do both of them. And this end here. Okay, now we go back to placing each one of these in the jar, starting with the larger ones because that'll make it easier. And that's pretty much all there is to it. you do want to fit these in as snugly as you can. And I can put a small one in there, and that is why I don't worry about having all exactly the same size, because sometimes a small one is just what you need to fill a gap. Okay. Looks like it's just about the perfect amount. And believe it or not, having a narrow mouth helps to hold them down. And what you want here is that everything is submerged below water. And if you need to put a bag with water to hold it down, you can do that. I just keep a very good eye on it, and I try to make sure that it is always submerged under the water. So now the last stage is to pour my salt water mixture into this jar. And if I don't have enough, which I don't, I will mix up some more. Okay, I have mixed up some more of my salt water brine mixture. And I want to top this up, definitely cover everything, and top that up as much as possible. Now, yes, you are going to have some of the seeds float to the top, which is perfectly fine. And I just make sure that the pickles are below the water level, that everything is below the water level. And once again, if the seeds float, that's not a problem. Okay, and at this point, you can use an airlock system, or you can use a plastic lid and just burp it once a day for a few days. So I also put something underneath the jar in case there is a reaction from the fermentation process that spills out. Okay. Okay, and here you can see the fermentation process progressing. This was probably the first of the 4 jars that I have here today, and that was probably about 4 or 5 days ago, and it could be considered close to ready. And this one is the day after that, and you could see that there's definitely a color difference between the fresh one that I made today, which is the larger one, and this one I made yesterday, still holding its green color, but it's not quite as green as that one. So this one is just starting the process, and this is today's. So I'll just keep making the pickles until I feel that I have enough for the season, and this could be close to it actually. And after that we'll probably just use the pickles for salads. You might get a jar here or there that spoils, so it's always good to have extra on hand as well. Yeah. Okay, after these have finished fermenting and you're happy with the result, it could take 3 to 5 days, or if you want a more sour pickle, you can leave it for a couple of weeks. And after that, it should be stored in a cool place. I used to keep mine in a basement, I guess what people would call a root cellar. We called it a wine cellar, or a cantina was the name that we used. It was basically a concrete room that was cooler than the rest of the house, because there would be an opening in the wall to the outside, so you would have cool air circulating in there. And fortunately my home had one of those rooms. It doesn't now, and things like this would keep for 2 years without any issue. But if you don't have that environment, a cool place is necessary. A refrigerator works just fine, so they should be stored in a cool place when they're done. And that would completely slow down or stop the fermentation process. Okay, that's my pickles for this week. And I suspect that if I keep this up, the vines are just starting to produce, and I could probably end up with probably close to 10 jars if I kept at it, but we'll see what happens. And if I know anyone that needs some, maybe I'll make some for them as well. Well, that's it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed this, and we'll catch you on the next one.